Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're not new here, welcome back. My name is Florence and I'm an artist and a mom. In today's video, I'll be showing you the process of this mermaid painting. Today's video is going to be a bit more casual with the voiceover. That's honestly what my goal is, to be more laid back with these videos as if I'm just chatting with y'all. I normally have a script written and try to sound very proper, but sometimes I just want to talk about whatever comes to mind. Right now, I'm drawing the line art for this piece, and this took me forever. Typically, it takes me 30 minutes to an hour to draw the line art for a painting, but this took a few hours. I think the size of the painting played a part in it, obviously. I normally paint on watercolor paper that's 8 by 10 inches. This is 10 by 14, so definitely larger than I'm used to. It's a bit awkward working with a piece this size because my desk doesn't have that much space. My typical process is I'll draw the line art digitally on Procreate, print it out, and transfer it using graphite paper. Then I go over the transferred lines with a Prismacolor Coal Erase pencil. Normally I use carmine red, but this time I'm using a light blue pencil to go with the color scheme. With the line art, I actually had to print it out on 2 sheets of paper since my printer can only go up to 8.5 by 11 inches, so that added another level of difficulty. Later on, I'll show the time lapse of drawing the line art in Procreate, as well as choosing a color scheme and how I clean up paintings digitally to make into prints and stickers. So I've never drawn or painted a mermaid before. I did this because my mom kept requesting that I try painting mermaids in my style. If you're new here, I usually paint fairies and sometimes demons. I'm planning on doing more mermaids and goblin characters. I started vending at some events by this group that is focused on goblin themes. They're called Time Travel Events Atlanta. We have one event coming up in June that's called Shop Goblin Shop, and then a dance party afterwards called Dance Goblin Dance, and obviously there's a lot of Labyrinth references going on, which is a great movie. I recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Jim Henson and David Bowie. So I feel like I should actually make some goblin characters for their events. Anyway, this was incredibly hard for me to draw, but I think it was difficult because I wanted it to be the best I could possibly do because it's for my mom. I wanted to go all out. I went for a sort of mix between your typical mermaid and a siren, with the ears and the hands being webbed, more fins going on. I think it's nice to get outside of my comfort zone. Most of my characters are cute, whimsical nature fairies, mushroom fairies, stuff like that. This is a bit more eerie, and despite it being difficult and not liking the painting through the majority of the process, at the end it is one of my favorite characters I've painted. I'm planning on painting more mermaids for Mermaid. It just depends on how life goes. Life has been pretty hectic and busy, so I'm taking April easy. I have some new pieces I'll be making into stickers and prints so that I have some new inventory for my upcoming markets. And I'll be working on my Crystal Witch finally, as well as a personal project. The personal project I'm working on is something I've redone before. I decided I wanted to revisit it since the last time I painted it was 2021. And I like redoing older pieces to see how I've improved. I'll talk about it a bit more in the future. I'm hoping to record the process if I can. Sometimes I get caught up in a painting that I just forget to record. I didn't for this video though. I really wanted to make a video of my process and make it a bit more detailed than previous ones. is the brush I used for my wash. I do not recommend this sort of brush. As you'll see, it's pretty streaky and I was fighting for my life here. Since then, some of y'all recommended a mop brush, so I just bought one from Blick the other day. It's a large Princeton Velvet Touch size 3/4, so I'm excited to use that. I talk about Blick a lot, but I can't help it. I really love that store. I could probably spend a whole day just looking at everything, and I'd probably end up spending way more than my budget. I actually ordered some Holbein colored pencils from their website the other day, and I just used them for the first time. If you watched some of my previous videos, I talked a bit about wanting to try out different colored pencils, specifically Holbein, and the only thing available in the store was the set of primary colors. Thankfully, Blick's website has individual shades, so I ordered 3 and used them for an upcoming video where I color Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time with alcohol markers and color pencils. And unfortunately, I really love the Holbein pencils. I don't feel the same way about the Faber-Castell colored pencils. I say unfortunately because of the price, obviously. But again, Blick has individual shades, so as well as alcohol markers, I'll be buying a few shades here and there to build my collection. It's just, of course, my favorite colored pencils are also the more expensive option. Of course, like the small tube of gouache I just had to buy that was $22 because only Holbein had that specific shade of green, and I'm quite terrible at mixing greens with gouache. But they are so good, they work for me. Everybody is different, and it just depends on what you want from your color pencils. For example, as much as I love Prismacolor Kohl Erase pencils, I actually am not a fan of the regular colored pencils. They're just too buttery and soft for me, and that may work for someone else, but not me. Faber-Castell was fine. I like their polychromos, but Holbein is just perfect for what I need. I'm gonna stop yapping about colored pencils and focus on this painting now. This painting had a long, ugly phase for me. If you work with watercolor, you know what I'm talking about. Most watercolor paintings go through a phase that has you questioning life. At least I feel that way, and you have to remind yourself of this phrase: trust the process. Be patient, keep building up and rendering, as I'd like to say. But man, I really hated the tail and her hair for the longest time. I felt so frustrated, I was close to throwing it out and just doing it digitally like I had originally planned. And there is a shade of paint I have from the Van Gogh brand that at first looks great because the color is perfect for shading. However, it is so grainy, and when it dries, it looks so patchy. I'm trying to use it up, but I may just be finally done with it and buy the same shade from Winsor & Newton because I can see it in her hair. I'm not a fan of granulation in watercolor paint. It's not for me. Some people like it, I do not at all. And I actually first started off with Van Gogh paints when I first took watercolor classes in college, and that's when I fell in love with it. However, over the course of a certain amount of time, that makes me sound really old, I guess they changed their formula because it is not the same as it was back then. But anyway, I kept going, kept building up. I ended up being really happy with her tail, especially after I touched up the painting in Procreate. And if you're paying attention, you'll probably notice that I didn't touch the fish after I put the base layers down. I may paint them later, but the overall composition looked too busy with them. I think they're cute, but I'm a bit nervous to paint them. I should have done a fish study before this. Like I said, it's literally the first time I've ever done anything fish related. Here I am rendering, adding details with some color pencils, adding more shading, and the lovely grueling task of the line work. So the paint I use for the line work, if I'm using watercolor, is that same shade of Van Gogh paint I was bitching about earlier. It's fine for line work, but that's the only good thing I can say about it. I also use alizarin crimson for some of the line work as well. Now, do y'all remember me talking about watching popular well-loved movies that just fall flat for you? I talked about it in my Color With Me video here. I thought it'd be fun to continue to talk about this topic from time to time because I have watched another movie that had amazing reviews, but I just did not like. I liked some of it, but not all. So anyway, the movie I watched recently that I heard great things about, and it seemed like my type of movie, and it had actors in it who I love, was Heretic. Now I want to be super clear here. I really like the part where the girls go into the house and they sit and talk with Hugh Grant about religion, and it's just fascinating to me. I like that part, and Hugh Grant. I could tell he enjoyed acting in this role. It was the second half that I wasn't a fan of. It felt like it went into a different movie, and I hope I don't offend anyone here. This is just my opinion. A lot of people I love and respect actually really like this movie. The first part felt like a really deep, philosophical A24 movie. Then it felt like a mix between Saw, Barbarian, and Reddit. If you've been on Reddit, you may understand what I mean by that. And no insult to people on Reddit. Again, it's just a particular part of Reddit. Like, I'm 14 and this is deep. And Topher Grace is in it, and I felt like his character was a bit pointless. I guess the purpose of his character was to spark some hope, and I don't want to say too much because of spoilers, but I was expecting something else would happen. I don't know, maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe I need to watch it again because I haven't heard one bad thing about it from anyone else. Anyway, let's move on. Back to this painting. Alright, I said I'd show y'all the time lapses, and here we are. As you may see, I just about struggled with every stage of this, honestly. Because sketching this and trying to come up with a position I was happy with took way longer than it typically takes me. I guess I was just so unfamiliar with mermaids in general and wasn't sure how to have her pose. I made her tail not as flexible as some mermaids I've seen. You can sort of tell where her knees would be. Oh, but mermaids don't have knees. I know, I just like the way this looks. But her hand position and her hair was just a pain in the ass to figure out. I like to be transparent with y'all when I can. I am not perfect at anatomy. I really need to study more and work on anatomy. I'm just lazy and I'm bad at sketchbooking. I need to work on my sketchbook more. I actually finally finished my sketchbook that I had for nearly 8 years. 8 years. So that sketchbook tour is gonna be fun. Anyway, this is what I do. A rough sketch with an idea of a color scheme. Then I go over for a cleaner, more defined sketch. I also had my husband critique her fish features as he's really into fish. So I give credit of her fish likeness to him. Oh, and if you thought that was the final line art, think again. I tortured myself by going over her line art for an even cleaner line art. I swear I make things harder for myself sometimes. And we're going into the next time lapse, how I edit and clean up the painting in Procreate. I take a picture with my phone. No, I do not have a scanner. Then I send it to Procreate and do all this stuff. I erase the background, add layers to saturate or deepen some colors, like her hair, correct some smudges, clean up the lines, etc. It's so it translates well into prints and stickers. Speaking of prints and stickers, I should have them listed in my Etsy shop soon. I will keep y'all posted. But that is all I have for y'all today. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. It's longer than usual, but it is a pretty lengthy process, and I just wanted to share it with y'all. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more art-related videos, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye!